I had a chance to watch the tape, and honestly, a lot of good things. Still, a lot of room for improvement. But I thought, as a team, we did a good job of, of working past the lulls. The couple lulls that we had, and 60-minute games, stayed focused. And again, in another interesting environment, you're on the road. And there's 400 or 500 fans there. It was a little bit, we go out in the stadium to warm up, and there's not a sound anywhere. It was just a unique experience. But I thought our guys really created energy on the sidelines by the way we played. So proud of that. Just injury-wise, just to give you a couple updates. Ashton, with the knee, as we mentioned yesterday, we'll continue to monitor his progress and evaluate him as the week goes on. Same thing with TY and his groin. And Rock obviously was in the protocol, but he cleared right away. You could kind of tell he got up real quick, and so I think that was more precautionary, but he's already cleared. So those are the injuries from the game that we're dealing with.
All right, Joel Erickson.
Frank, when it comes to Phillips' play, is there sometimes good to be had in throwing an incomplete pass or taking a sack on a play that's maybe not going well instead of trying to force something? And do you think he's been doing a little bit of that the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I think Phillip played exceptionally well yesterday. Obviously, numbers and every other thing, including Joel doing a couple of those things that you're saying. When it's not there, we had to play on a goal line. It didn't come up quite how we wanted. Just first down, or let's just dirt it and let's just move on and have confidence in the next play call. But Phillip's a great decision maker, has been that way his whole career. Trust him implicitly there. It's never going to be perfect, but it's been really good.
Just about to this point, you've not really had the feature receiver, and the running back has been sort of hit and miss. What are the pluses and minuses of maybe having a lot of guys you look for and not that one guy in the key situation?
Well, interesting. No, it's an interesting question. I just think that how we like to spread it around. Obviously, we still feel like, even though TY doesn't have the numbers this year, it's just odd how things haven't come up for him yet to have a big game for us. But, we always have a bunch of stuff up for him and called and just not always coming up. So the pros and cons are, we got a lot of confidence in our guys. They can't lock in on one guy. You can't scheme to stop one guy because we're spreading around. That's the biggest positive. You don't know who we're throwing to on third down, or when we get in the red zone, who are we going to feature, because we're going to spread it around. So the other positive of that is we just feel like we're continuing to develop our football team into playmakers. With our running backs, tight ends, and receivers, all of our skill guys. We talk a lot about it being an unselfish room, and guys stepping up and making plays, and feel like we're getting that. Feel like we're building confidence in our whole roster.
Stephen Holder.
Frank, hey, I realize I'm getting a little bit ahead of you here, and you haven't gotten too deep into the Ravens, but if you'll indulge me for later in the week, when you there's going to be a lot of talk about Lamar this week, obviously, but I'm just wondering, how do you feel your defensive personnel matches up against just quarterbacks like that in general, quarterbacks who, for whom containment is an issue and that kind of thing? You guys get a lot of guys to the ball. You run to the ball quickly, obviously, have a lot of speed. Do you match up well with players like that?
I think let me put it this way. I think what we bring to the table is, an 11-on-1 mentality. I think what we bring to the table is, I know every defense in this league runs to the ball. I obviously am very biased. I think our defense has a commitment for all 11 guys running to the ball. I think the talent level of the speed and talent level of our defense as a unit is at a spot that can match up against players like this. But at the same time, I also acknowledge that Lamar's a unique player and that he's a hard matchup for anybody. And one-on-one in space, he's going to win a lot of those. So that's why it's going to be important that it's not one-on-one, that it's like Flus likes to talk about, that it's 11-on-1. And that's the way you got to approach guys like this.
Zach Kiefer.
Frank, as of 7 games in, you guys are dead last in the league in yards per carry. You talked about the run game last week. Are you disappointed? Are you encouraged by maybe Jordan Wilkins yesterday? Are you worried about it? What are your thoughts on that group? Because it's still not going probably how you want it to.
I thought yesterday we made some progress in some ways. Early on we struggled, various reasons for that. The yards per attempt, I don't want to say I'm not concerned about it. I'm always going to have the same mindset. We got to get better no matter what. But I think offensively we're making the steps in the right direction there. So a lot of times in a game, the flow of this game was different. We were able to be patient with the run and get things going later on, still get 120 yards against a team that in the previous 2 games had given up 40 and 60 yards on the ground. So, and I thought when we needed to run the ball late, we did that and did it well. But we got to get better. There's no question. And I believe we will. And we're going up against a team this week who's obviously extremely stingy against the run. So it'll be a good challenge for us.
Frank, are you guys using the pass to set up the run? I mean, it feels like it sometimes.
Oh, and absolutely. I mean, absolutely. It's going to be both and. I mean, there's definitely games you're going in and using the pass to set up the run. And then there's other times where you're doing it the opposite. And some of it is, you always want to go. I typically like to go in balanced. When I'm scripting plays early on, the script is typically pretty balanced in the first series. But then you adjust and adapt as you go.
Kevin Bowen.
Frank, one quick one to start before my actual question. Philip mentioned that Jonathan Taylor was.
Kevin, I think you might have cut out. We lost him. Okay, Bob Kravitz, you want to go ahead?
Sure. Hey, Frank, this has nothing to do with the game, but going back to your career, the end of your career, how did you know that it was time to quit the game, to retire? Did you do that on your own volition, or was that something that was sort of forced upon you?
No, I did it on my own volition. I'd actually, without giving you a long story, to give you a 30-second version, I had actually retired the year before in June. And then the team, the Detroit Lions, Bobby Ross kept calling me to come back. So I decided to come back for one more year. So when I came back that 14th season, I knew at the end of that year I was going to be done. Just physically, my right shoulder was shot, and then I ended up having right shoulder surgery after my 14th season and had pretty significant shoulder injury. So I knew I was finished.
How typically difficult is it for a guy to reach that conclusion? I mean, you obviously had some issues that made it obvious what you needed to do, but for other guys, how difficult is that?
I think it's very difficult. I mean, I think as a player, one of the things that makes you a great player is that you have a mindset that you can win and that you can compete against anybody. I mean, so that's part of what puts you there in the first place. There used to be an old adage, an old teammate of mine used to say, I used to think it was pretty funny. He used to say, play as many years as you can and then play one more. So because once this career is over, there is nothing like this. I mean, it can still be up. It doesn't mean that the rest of life is downhill by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a unique career. It's a unique profession. So that inner instinct, that inner competitor that makes these players what they are, is really the drive that keeps them going, I believe.
Thank you.
Well, 2 more here, George Bremer.
It's the 11 different receivers on Sunday. Is that a sign that the Phillips getting more comfortable with guys, maybe understanding more of their strengths and how to best use them?
There's no question that his comfort level, with the full roster is growing, and those young receivers. And a lot of that comes in practice because, you know, when a guy is dinged or when, you know, if T.Y.'s had his a rest day, then, you know, the other young receivers getting reps. So that's a good thing. And, you know, Philip's doing a good job of helping, you know, bring some of those guys along and gain a comfort level. And those guys are working hard. And I mean, I just give Chris and his staff a lot of credit for, you know, giving us the kind of depth at this position. I've said to Chris several times this year that about how, I don't know, just feel differently where, you know, when we've been dinged here at receiver early on, I just feel like so much confidence in our young receivers, even the guys who, you know, even the guys who haven't been up very much yet. I just have a lot of confidence in those guys. And I think Philip is continuing to develop confidence in them as well.
Jim Aiello?
Yeah, I'm going to presume I know what Kevin was going to ask. I think Philip said that Jonathan Taylor was maybe a little nicked up. Was there anything going on with Jonathan during the game in terms of injury?
He has a little bit of an ankle thing, you know, so I don't know. I haven't met with the medical guys yet. That's at 2:00. So I'll get more of the detail on that. But I didn't know that, you know, that did not come up during the game. But I did see a preliminary report afterwards that there could have been a little bit of something. I'll find out at 2:00.
The other question I have for you was just about running backs. I think we all use the term hot hand in football. What does that mean? I guess what do you see in a running back that's happening that makes somebody have, you know, a hot hand, like the way he's hitting a hole or vision? What are you seeing out there?
Yeah, just a groovy. And honestly, sometimes it's a stroke of quote unquote luck that, hey, you got in there on a play that was blocked perfectly clean and bam, it goes. And that, you know, now you're in there for the next one. But like in Jordan's case, I mean, there were a couple runs where you could just see his vision and balance in the hole was that it was just there, that he had the right feel and had two cutback runs that were really effective. One time they got a guy coming clean off the corner. It should be a 4-yard loss. He turns it into a 10-yard gain or an 8-yard gain. Somehow got through and kept his feet. So he was doing those little things.
The last one here, Phil Nardiello.
Hey, Coach, I know you guys did some work in the training camp, and you guys released a video on, you know, some get out the vote work. Are you guys anxious to see kind of the fruition of that work tomorrow with the turnout? And I know you guys have really put a lot of time and effort into this.
A lot of time and effort, and obviously the league did the right thing. And you know, tomorrow's a day off, right, for everybody. So as far as getting out to vote, so I'm really confident we'll have 100% guys voting. I really credit not only our organization, but really the players really led this right from the very start, the importance of it. And not just going out there to vote, but being an educated voter. Our guys have put a lot of effort into that, talked a lot about it, got the right resources so that when you're stepping in to vote, you can be as educated as you can for that privilege and that opportunity and the responsibility that we have to be a part of that process.